Hey people, it's Kelly at Print Pray Slay, and I'm here with Morgan, and we're shooting another episode of
Cookies.
In Christ. All right, so today we welcome Morgan back. We missed her last month when we went into the other sections of Exodus, and now we are moving forward to Exodus 25, 31 through 18. Morgan is leading today, so I'm very excited. I love when Morgan leads. So we can get started. We can just jump right in there.
Okay, so this section, I'm be honest, I wasn't impressed. But so this section, God basically outlines his very, very specific instructions for building out the tabernacle. And for those of you guys who aren't familiar or who haven't yet read the section, the tabernacle itself is basically like a mobile church or a mobile worship center. So back then, they use this really, really nice wood called acacia. That's how I say it. I don't know if it's right. Siri will correct me later. Um, but anyway, God was really specific in what he wanted. Okay, I mean, all go everywhere. Kelly, you remember that song by Trinidad James?
Hi,
No,
go Morgan.
it was like gold all in my chain, gold all in my watch.
Yeah,
That's what God was on when he was building out, when he was giving Moses these instructions. Like,
it was a lot of
he was
gold.
real specific and he wanted everything decked out, like the
He is the
criminal
Lord.
what she deserves. Oops, I'm sorry if I knock over my whole thing. What he deserves the criminal he got, right? Even
Mhm.
for like offerings, he listed out things that were acceptable as offerings, like gold, silver, the finest of linens, leather, spices, the incense, and even like gemstones. He talked about the Ark of the Covenant, which was basically built to house the stone tablets that the commandments were on. That um, he already shared with the Israelites. Even the Ark was decked out in gold and cherubs and wings. Y'all know what cherubs are, cute little baby.
No, they not. Keep telling you. I'm going to do a study on angels. I'm going to make a kit. I promise you. I already have it. I already know the illustrator I'm going to use, all of that.
Listen,
Because they're not cute.
I mean,
They
they're not cute, but we have
they got
American
like four heads and a whole bunch of eyes all over them. They not cute.
Americans have Americanized them into making them cute.
Yeah.
Or
Well, no, it's really the Italians, French.
what's about to say the Catholic is the Catholics. We have transition, just like how we have all said that Jesus was a white male with goldy locks and blue hair. So the cherubs have also evolved into these cute little things.
Babies with wings.
um,
I know they probably mad.
um,
Because they are some, yeah.
yeah.
They not
But,
messenger angels. They're like some hefty angels.
to get an idea of just the mass of this thing, like it was almost 24 feet long and 2 feet wide. So when we'll get to my dissertation later because I'm trying to figure out where did all this gold come from.
I know. I thought about that. I have an answer.
Like,
But
where is the gold? So anyway, it was needless to say, it was massive and heavy. The cover for the ark, which is also called like the atonement cover, which had a space for like the presence of God. And so, up until this point, when we're talking about God, very few people have seen a vision of God or God has appeared before them, except for the few. When he was leading the Israelites out, he appeared in front of them with the clouds and the fire and stuff like that. And so the ark had a space for him to have his presence. What form he was going to show up in, we don't know, but it was going to be enough to fit into that space. And it's 24 feet long, so that's a lot of space. Um, he also listed out. Oh wait, going back to the place to atone. It was a place to atone. I don't know if you guys are familiar, and if you are really familiar with like the Catholic Church when they go in and they what's it called? Having a brain fart. Confession. Um, and basically you're atoning for the sins of the people. Basically, that's what they cover. So God also listed out specific plans for like the table of presence, the lampstand, the courtyard. There was a light for the tabernacle. The priest had specifics for their clothes, the altar, the tabernacle, like everything was very, very specific in this section, like listed out how he wanted it, what he wanted it act like. The accent, like if you decorating your house, not only did God come up with the floor plan, he also came up with the wall colors, how big your window treatments were going to be, where you would sit. Like he was so specific in this section. Um, and after he went through all the plans, he made sure to remind Moses that I don't think I need to tell you that you must follow this to spec. Like, but he said, I shouldn't have to tell you, but if I need to remind you, make sure you follow these plans. Within the tabernacle itself, there were two rooms. One was called the holy place and one was called the most holy place. So the priests, which I'll talk about in a second, they were allowed in the holy place, and there they tended to things like the offerings and the lampstand and the altar. Made sure, basically not housekeeping because they weren't maids, but they made sure things were constantly nice and upkept. And then in the most holy place was where God himself would be. So, and it was separated by like a curtain, so to speak. So imagine being a priest and just being a curtain away from the Lord. And not being able to open the curtain. Like, whoever, like, I'm sure your kids probably have done this, Kelly. You be in the shower and they just whip that thing up and be like, Ma. So, yeah, that was stuff that stuck out to me.
It's tempting.
Yeah, very, very tempting. Outside, like I said, outside the specifics that were to be built, God also decided at this time that he wanted to establish priests in order to like facilitate the worship. So these were like ministers who, like I mentioned before, oversaw things within the tabernacle, like the altar and the altar table and the offerings, but they also help people establish and maintain their relationship with God, sort of like how we view like pastors or deacons or different things within the church. That was like the beginning orchestra of that. Certain specifics about the priests were that they could only be Levites. And I don't know if you guys remember, because we talked about it many, many months ago, who Levi was from Joseph's story. But then we turn around and now look at his lineage. That is his lineage that becomes the priests that are allowed to become priests. Well, the first set of priests. And then of course the first set of priests were none other than Aaron, Moses' brother, Moses' brother and his sons. And so God wanted to basically adorn them with the proper garments to make sure that everybody knew that these were the high priests. So we talking about turban, medallion, gemstones, a ephod, a chest piece, a sash, all the bells and whistles. Like when you saw them, there was no question that these were priests. And if we reflect back to like when Joseph was little, he had like a very, very special robe and sash. So it wasn't like they weren't familiar with people who had nice clothing. So God wanted to make sure that these were the creme de la creme. Like, ain't no mistaking these for just rich people. These aren't just rich people. These are godly people. And of course, Moses had to do a ceremony to anoint them as priests. And closing up in this section, God essentially created a tax fund for the upkeep of the tabernacle. He gave them taxes. The standard is cleanliness and holiness for the priest. So basically, he's like, we went through all this to build this up. We have to be able to maintain and keep it. So he was very specific in that as well. And after hearing all this, as most of us would be, because I know I was, Moses was overwhelmed.
That's why I was like, I hope my man had a tablet. And then it'd be like at the end, he got tablets. I was like, he needed a tablet a long time ago.
Was he scribing on?
Hopefully God was writing it on his heart, because I was like, I hope my man had a memory like no other. Especially since, like, I couldn't imagine the Lord telling you something. You'd be like, you can't even be like, huh? Like, or you start looking at a fly, like you have to pay attention.
Like, wait a second.
I'm hoping that he did. Well, he did. It was taskful.
So he was overwhelmed, but God was like, don't even worry about it. I already gave Bezalel and Oholiab, I don't know, the skills to make everything happen just as I outlined. Like they're already equipped with the skills to execute this. Just give them the instructions. as I told you. And then the last thing God did was just give a gentle reminder about the Sabbath. We know from the beginning, 7 days. We questioned how many days were really days back then. But on the seventh, he rested, and he wanted to reinforce that with his chosen people that the seventh day, that the Sabbath, the seventh day, should be for rest. Um, so that's the summary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Going back, so the first thing that kind of stuck out to me in this section was that I love the citing of things like incense and gemstones are mentioned as worthy offerings, because I feel like in mainstream Christianity, sometimes they'll have you believe that things like that are like really taboo. But God was like, "No, this the like I want this. This is good. This is excuse me. This is something that shows, value and reverence to me. And it's honestly just about how you use things that makes them
Mm-hmm.
evil, not the thing itself. Like a gemstone is a rock. The rock itself is not evil. It's how people use it that can be evil if you're idolizing it or giving it some type of
Right.
power over God.
It's like money.
Yeah. So that was my first
Yeah.
thing. Did you have anything else? I'm sorry. Did you have anything from 25, 1 through 6? I think that was the first section.
I was thinking the same thing when you had asked the question, like, where are they getting this stuff from? And I was thinking, like, is this the same stuff that they took from the Egyptians in Exodus? I looked up Exodus 12:36 when he had said eventually um, Pharaoh is going to want you to leave. Like, they're going to be like, take this, like, y'all just go, be free, and take all my stuff with you, type of thing. I'm not sure if it was these exact things, but I was wondering, like, well, where did they get all the gold and the silver and the bronze and all of the things required to do all of this? And I was wondering if that was some of the stuff that they had been blessed with, and it made me think, like, not only like the saying of the Lord giveth and he taketh away, but like that God gives to you. And sometimes it's not just for your benefit, it's for the glory of God, truly. Like, it's not just for you to go and be like, look at me, look how I'm going to come up. God blessed me with this nice, let's say, house, but your house is now a shelter for those who are in need. Friends come over and they spill their hearts out to you. Children have a nice place to laugh and play. Like, it's not just about you and what you would think of the house. It's like, how did God use you and the house as well? So I was like, oh, look, they get to use what they got, to build something further. Um, I thought it was nice, not just nice, like nice, not enough. I don't know, limited vocabulary. Awesome. I thought it was. I was like, nice. What's above that? I thought it was awesome, honestly. That like to have a place. Like, I know we have church, and God ultimately is omnipresent. Like, it's everywhere. But like that special type of place where He would show up. Um, Again, knowing that he shows up where you and somebody else have gathered in your prayers and everything. It's just, it feels like something different when a place has been built specifically for that type of worship and love. So for him to like want to have this holy sanctuary and include us in it just made, I wasn't there, I just felt special, like he wanted to be in the presence of his people. So I thought that was awesome. That was all I had for 175. If you want to go with notes on 176, or you already did all of 25.
No. My next note isn't until 25, 22.
um I right here in 25, I guess 10 through 22, I was talking about the rings and pulls. You had mentioned like it's mobile, so you're moving stuff around. And I'm assuming they had to hold it like with these moldings of gold because it was holy. Like, even them trying to touch it probably was a thing. So I just said maybe because it shouldn't be touched. So I said that. I went and defined atonement like you did, as reparations for like wrongdoing, like sin. And then the reconciliation of God and man is eventually Jesus Christ. So I just put that on my notes. Um, and on 22nd, 25, 22, My Bible, well, our Bible was calling it the atonement cover,
Mm-hmm.
but in other Bibles it's called the mercy seat. So I
Yeah.
don't see that mentioned here. So I just wanted to make sure I noted that 22 is the mercy seat where God will appear and meet. It's like the throne of God on earth. Like it's like a big deal. So I had that. I think you said you stopped at 22. I'm sorry. But
So
yeah.
that was basically my note. Well, not my note about the seat itself, but just that the seat, the atonement cover in itself was like, to atone for your sins, and just how a lot of times when we think about God, doing like a mass forgiving of sins, we automatically go Jesus, and like that sacrifice. But this is a prime example of He built a place for us to come to Him, and do that atonement on our own. But I'm sure that the rest of the Bible will show we didn't do a great job of doing that. But just that this was like the first, like it was a structure built for God giving us mercy and showing us that He is forgiving when we mess up, and we all mess up, and He already knows that it's going to happen. That's why He made a place. Let me go ahead and make a place for these people to atone.
That tone.
That's what He was like. He said, while I'm at it, let me make a place for them to atone, because I already know these people. Like I already know what's
We
about
are
to happen.
people. Yes, we need forgiveness.
Yeah. So that
I,
was my
I
note.
forgot to mention 19. It's all the way at the bottom because I ran out of notes. The margins on my Bible are like this big. It's not a journaling Bible. Um 19 is just talking about, like you were saying, with the cherubim.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying that the last time I remember hearing them was in Genesis, because they're like, they were sent to guard Eden
Okay.
after they were kicked out. And so that made me think about like what I had told you, which is like cherubim are not like, they're not a joke. Like they're like really big, mighty type, like angels. And I believe they have like eyes all over their wings. They have foreheads, not foreheads, but like four-sided heads. And because they're guards, so I don't know if that's why they have the four heads, or why. That's beyond my understanding. But they weren't like anything. I'm not trying to say they weren't anything. What I'm about to say is they weren't anything cute to look at. But I'm not trying to say they were ugly by all means. But it's just nothing that we've ever seen before. So I'm just always amazed when I like hear about them. But to have them also guard in this regard, the gold cherubim on top of the cover, the atonement cover. So that was the last note I had for the very last note I had for that part. And then I have some stuff still on that page, but I like to go after you for 25, 23 to 30.
Um, Nothing for 23 through 30.
Okay.
I had my next note is for 31, I believe.
Okay. I just have on 30, 25, 30, the place of, I mean, the plate, it says place the bread of the presence on the table. And I
Mhm.
just said to be eaten in fellowship with God. Bread plays a major part. Bread is so delicious, but bread plays a major part in a lot of different faith. I want what I guess you can say rituals. Um, and then the lampstand I wrote down from other studies was a symbol of God's presence. Um, it shines as a testament that God is with His people and represents the Holy Spirit. That part I heard from somebody else. I probably need to write my references in there, but I do agree with the shining bright. Seven lamps.
Yeah, 7 lamps. And my note for 39 was like, you will need 75 pounds of gold just for the lampstand. Just for the lampstand.
He said what he said.
I was just like, that's what I wrote. That was my note. Just for the lampstand.
Yep, that he said what he said. Um, you got anything for the other page, like 177?
Yeah, for in 26, 31.
31.
Well, I mentioned before in my summary where I was talking about the curtain,
Mhm.
and it was like just about the temptation. Like, how tempted would it be to know that just behind this curtain is God, is the presence of God? Like, I know I would want to look. And while I was sitting here reflecting on it, that song, it'd be like just to be close to you.
Well, yeah, I remember the song.
Yeah. So it was just going back and forth, and I was like, maybe just being that close was enough. But
It was one person that could go. It says the
the high,
highest, like
correct. But I'm talking about just there were
like
more.
everybody else.
Yeah,
Everybody
there was
else.
more than just one priest. So it's
I guess
like
he could just tell us, what happened.
I'm
He
here
was
all
happy.
day helping these people atone, cleaning up the ashes from the incense, and I know that just one gusty wind, one big exhale could.
No, this curtain was probably hefty.
I
What
mean,
was
yeah, it
the
was
curtain?
heavy.
Was I forgot? They had so many measurements in here. What was it? 40 feet long, 6 feet wide.
It
Is
was
that
like a blue.
yeah?
Yeah, it was like for make a special cotton a curtain, make a special curtain, a finely woven linen, decorated with blue, purple, and scarlet thread, with embroidered cherubim hanging on gold hooks, overlaid the posts
So
with
no,
gold.
with no, only gusty wind that can come through there is God's breath. Like ain't no other wind coming
I
through
understand.
and opening the curtain. You can't just be like, oh God, I fell in here. Like you can't.
Yeah.
Nobody
And
looks at the
even
curtain.
up until this point, even though the priests were anointed, I wonder if that changed after they were anointed, if they were actually able to talk and communicate with God on their own, or were they still kind of feeding through Moses? Because like up until this point, we just know what we know because it's all coming from Moses. So I just feel, and I guess that's why he chose who he chose, because he know that they would do what they were supposed to do and not be looking behind the curtain. Because I would be like, just one day just sitting there and be like,
And then go blind. Then try to act like I ain't do nothing. Well,
"Is
Morgan,
that you, Lord?"
why your eyebrows gone then? Was you
I
looking at
heard a whisper. I thought he was calling my name. Like, just curiosity will definitely kill the cat.
try that if you want to. Then you gonna meet him for real.
Yeah.
um, on the plans for the altar, and I said this is where sacrifices were made. People had to like really deal with their sin through sacrifice, and we do that a little bit today, but not necessarily like killing something that we love, but it's it's ourselves. We kind of they say you die daily, giving up a piece of yourself. You don't really feel like it's a in the moment maybe a sacrifice, but after it's gone, it's like I didn't need that thing that was holding me back from my relationship with God anyway. But at the time, it is a true sacrifice. But the whole burnt offerings and things like that, it was a big deal. Like as I read more about it on 180, I like had a whole note that said, "Thank you, Jesus." Like him being the ultimate sacrifice doesn't call for us to do all of this now. Not that it's a lot to be done, because I'm sure if I had sinned and I had to do this, little calf gone. Like I'm doing what I got to do, but knowing that praying and repenting and having a relationship with God is all, and you can do all that. Like sitting down right now where I am is good enough for God now. That's worthy to clap for, because I'm just thankful for that. I did put the curtain. That's the curtain that ripped when Jesus died. That curtain that separated the holy place from the most holy place. Um, and I believe that signified like we we have that other kind of connection. That connection is there through Jesus now. So I thought that was really nice. I think the notes go into it at the bottom too, symbolizing our free access to God because Jesus is death. No longer did people have to approach God on special days through high priests and sacrifices. You just, open your mouth, open your heart. So that's all I have for those 2 pages. I'm already turned over.
I know we wasn't even there yet.
Uh, where you at?
Yeah. So,
Where you at?
um, in Exodus 27, basically the note that's Kelly had already talked about, but I just had a note that just talked about the altar and offerings, and it was talking about the presence of the altar of burnt offering. That's a really long name. But it was to remind people that the way to get to God is through means of sacrifice. And while we, like Kelly said, we don't have to burn things or cattle or livestock or things of such magnitude now, the process is still true. That's what I wrote. because in order for us to be close to God, there are sacrifices that we must make, be it people, relationships, habits, whatever is whatever the thing is that is standing in our way of that connection. And it's up to each of us to really kind of fine tune and discern what that thing is, because wow, for one person it could be money, but another person can make a whole bunch of money, and that doesn't interfere with their relationship with God, because their focus could be fornication or whatever the thing is. So we each have our own vices that are interfering with our relationships that we must ultimately sacrifice and offer up in order to have that relationship. Now turning the page. Um and do you have any other notes for Exodus 27?
27. I mean, it's not a serious note, but for some reason when I got to 16 and it's talking about the plans for the courtyard, even though I went through all the notes with the curtains and everything, it is now talking about the linen, and
Mm-hmm.
it's saying embroidery in blue, purple, scarlet thread, and I just say it's a lot of blue and a lot of purple and gold, and I was just talking about the meanings of those colors,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're talking what I'm thinking of in blue, like the royal blue, the royal purple, the royal. It's a lot of royal type of colors there. I don't even know if those were the ways that they addressed those colors back then, but today we call them royal colors, the deep rich colors that they are. And I was like, a lot, like if like you said, if God was on HDTV and he was doing this, that, and the third, the details and everything that went into this are amazing. I was like, wow, I wouldn't have, I would have loved to have seen something so like beautiful. That took so much effort. But yeah, that's my only note for 27. I did highlight about the oil, but I don't have any notes. I just highlighted simply what it said. So no notes for 27. I do have a note for 28 later on.
Um, okay. So in 28, um, the first note I had was just talking about 28:3, what it says, instruct all the skilled craftsmen who I fill with the spirit of wisdom. And so at first I was like, the spirit of wisdom, but what he means is I've given them the wisdom and the skill set to execute their duty that, is known to him. And I wrote a note that how God has given us all wisdom and skills in certain areas. And it was, have you found yours yet?
That's interesting. I would
Yeah.
say yes.
Because like, what if you thought your skill was something else? Like I was like, that ain't what I told you to do. That ain't the wisdom I gave you.
I mean, I definitely have had that moment. I just put the video up there about me and switching careers and everything, and yeah, that does feel like if you're not doing what God made you to do, you kind of wasting your time. And at that moment, like this whole epiphany does happen, and it's like for you to turn your back on it, it borderline it hurts, and you feel a little foolish when you do that. Because I mean I say that's how I felt when I did it. Like I ain't about to do that. They don't make no money. They not respected. I'm not doing that. Only to come full circle and oh, I'm gonna do it now. Like 9 years, no, 11 years later. So yeah, if you have a certain skill, I do suggest reaching down, understanding the things that not necessarily come easy, but I guess that come natural and that you see other people are pleased with and have joy. It could be anything. Like my friend organizes like houses, and the amount of peace she gives people with that, girl, that's a skill. That's just not the hobby. That's a skill. So yeah, it doesn't have to be this grand thing. It could be you the best hug giver, because I struggle with the hugs. So and my husband, he get a little 2 cent hugs too. We do the little we out here giving out all the church hugs. So I think anything could be it. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But that was the section where he was talking about the clothes for the priests, because well, we'll talk a little bit about they did, why they put like a real good picture of the finished uh
There is a
tabernacle.
picture. 179. I looked up one on Google when I was trying to figure out this ephod.
Yeah, because like they gave us the chest piece, they gave us the atonement cover. I was like, where is the decked out tabernacle? I need a tour. Like, I want to tour it.
Oh, you meant the okay, that no,
The
I was
whole
looking
thing.
at
Like,
the outfit of the priest.
I want it from the court. I want to do a
So
full tour.
you want like a
Courtyard
whole
to the oh
HGTV tour?
yeah, from the
Like,
yeah, before and after, from the courtyard to the altar to the
I
the
mean, you
holy
might need
area.
to
Like I
Google
said,
it
but
because
allow me.
somebody can do a simulation.
Would they if nobody was allowed in the most holy area, could they really show me? But if God wasn't there yet because it's still under construction, they could still show me until they put the curtain up, right?
I ain't trying to mess with none of that. Just show me the direction. I'm gonna glance and I'll be like, true.
Yeah, I just wanted the picture. Because in our book, there are some illustrations, but not of that. So also I had a note for 28, 29, where it talked about the stones. So I mentioned like the priests, they had like this full garb, a turban, a medallion. So it was like turban, medallion. Then you had onyx stone, an ephod that sat like on their chest.
I didn't look at that little illustration, and I was just reading it, and I was like, "Is this a tank top?" Like, I was trying to envision it myself, and then I looked over, and I was like, "That's not what I was thinking about."
Well, when they say sash, I'm thinking beauty pageant, like across the diagonal.
We was both wrong. We was both wrong. So there is an illustration in our book of it, but you definitely should Google it because it may not be what you are thinking. It looks better than my thoughts.
But it looked heavier. I mean, I already felt like it was gonna be heavy, but it looked mad heavy and hot, and they was in a hot place. But anyway, talking about the stones with the names of the 12 tribes of Israel, basically symbolizing the burden of carrying the salvation of like the entire nation with them and like the decisions that they make, because ultimately they were the middle ground or I don't want to say pawns, but they were the facilitators of this communication of the relationship with God and the rest of the Israelites. As we remember back when Moses was trying to lead the people and he was burnt out, and his father-in-law came to visit him, and he was like, "You need help, like spread the wealth." And so here it is, God is giving him that help so that he's not the only person sitting up there day and night listening to the atonements and burning the offerings and listening to God and relaying the message. Like, he has a little bit of relief now, but with that privilege or with this position comes great responsibility. And it was just a reminder, like with privilege, with elevation comes a greater responsibility for those who are underneath us. That was my note. Because, like, yeah, it's a lot to have to be a priest of the full 12 tribes. Like, and not only, and if you ever forgot, there was a stone on you to remind you. The heavy, I don't know how heavy the stones were. I'm gonna say they was heavy because right now God is just wilding out. Like, everybody can pick up 75 pounds of gold as a lampstand. I'm assuming the chest piece had to be at least a 50 bone. I'm assuming that the jump was heavy. Took two of them bamers to lift it up and put it on you. So yeah, that was my note from 28, 29. And then
something wrong with her, Lord. Something wrong with her.
And then 28, 30, where it talked about the Urim and the Thummim. Thummim?
Thummim.
So they use those to help make it with the decision making. And they would shake it. And so I don't know if you guys have ever seen like The Exorcist or any type of film that revolves around like the Roman Catholic Church, and you will see them holding those things and shaking them when they were like contemplating or thinking or like chanting or in prayer. Background about me, I went to Catholic school and elementary school, so I know a little bit about this, but I see a lot of similarities between this section and the Roman Catholic Church. And so it's just funny to see how people can just hone in on one particular section of the Bible and just like ride it out.
That goes or it was the tradition that was passed down and they held on to it that long. Like, wow.
I mean, because there are priests in the Roman Catholic Church, and they still dress. They have like their traditional robe. It's not this elaborate though, but they do have their traditional Roman Catholic garb.
Be looking elaborate. The Pope,
the Pope, he the high priest. He's still decked out. The regular priest, not as much. Yes, they ran out of gold. Then, but they still carry the the Urim, and the Thummim. I'm sorry if anybody's Catholic and correct my accent, please do. Like put down the ebonics. Like
It is on 2829. No, 2830.
yeah,
If
that was
anybody
my last
needs to
note
be
for
there.
28. Do you have anything else for 28?
Um, in the clothing, I just noticed like the bells, like literal bells and whistles. Like I just was in awe. Like so, I'm guessing as you like you making all this jingle like noise. Um, I don't know what would be the reason, other than like beautiful sound. So I'm assuming they made like a beautiful sound as they walked around. Um, this is all I can equate it to, and what I would think of, or people knowing when you're they like when you're coming. No, not to put it this way, but like you put the bells on a baby's shoes, so you know where the baby is as they're walking around the house, or the same thing with a puppy, things like that. So I don't think it was like so God can know where you are, but I'm just thinking beautiful sound. That's what I was thinking. So that was the only notes that I had for that spread. I mean, not spread, like I'm designing for those pages.
Um, in chapter 29, God lists out like how to dedicate the priest because he has to get them set up. And so it's again a very elaborate ceremony that he
Mhm.
wants to follow. My only note here was that it kind of ties into what I was mentioning earlier when I said about being so close to God, and we're talking about the holy room and the most holy room. And it's like, wow, it would have been nice for everybody to be able to go to, you know, the holy place. Not everybody, and it comes across me saying mean to say this, but it's how it's going to
Like we all can't handle it.
come out. They weren't worthy because
Yeah, we all can't handle it. We all can't handle it.
worthy because of sin. So God decided to, have like create the priest. And while I sat with this, it was just like kind of frustrating me because especially as I equated it to now and how priesthood is established, because oftentimes we have people in even not even priesthood, but just in the hierarchy of traditional religion, we have people in those positions that are also corrupt and sinful. And so it takes away from the position and the reverence that they're supposed to have and how God wanted it to be, in order for them to help us maintain those relationships. It's like it could be so corrupt and they'll twist it and they'll, turn it into something that it shouldn't have been. And so that kind of made me sad in that section. But besides that, yeah, it was a really nice ceremony.
Um, the dedication of the priest from my notes. So it was the sacrificing, all of that is like really a lot for me. The splattering of the blood and all of that is a lot. Just because it's not what I typically experience in my culture or um in my religion. So that's different. So that's where I had my note about thank God I don't have to do, well, it said thank you, Jesus, you being the sacrifice and everything. I don't have to do these things no longer. But then it was like not only are they cutting the animal and the blood and the taking out the kidney and all this other stuff and chopping them up, it would also call them to put that blood on them purposefully. Like it was weird places like the earlobe, the thumb of their right hand and their biggest toes of their right feet. And I was like, well, why there? When I was listening to Bible recap, she was explaining that she believed that it was like that because those are the places that were seen. Like if you look at the picture of everything is pretty much covered except for the face, the hand, and feet. So it wasn't like they were going to put it all on there, everywhere else. So I said, oh, that's a good point that she made.
So when I'm gonna let you finish, but so specifically to
I'm
that.
done.
So when I read that part, it kind of made sense to me because they were like, I was like ears, and so that you can hear from God and have that relationship. The thumb, so typically when they are, baptizing or they do like Ash
Mhm.
Wednesday, they use their right thumb to make the cross on the forehead. So that's why that has to be cleansed. The toe, I was lost about. I'm just gonna say, to order my steps, Lord.
So you talking about like the armor of God. That's what it reminded me of when you were talking about just
Yeah,
like the armor of
that's
God.
what I got when I was reading it. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that makes
I
sense.
mean,
Like,
but I think that's interesting. I think that is interesting because I have seen like on Ash Wednesday and things like that,
mhm,
when they put the ashes on people or when they do the baptism with the oil and the water and things like that. So makes sense. I don't have anything at the next page. I have highlights, but again, it's the word of God that I highlighted. It's not like my own additional notes.
yeah,
What did I
that's all I have for 29. I don't have much for 30. I had some highlights, but nothing of
let
like
me see.
sticking out when I was just talking about
Um
taxes. Um,
for 30, I have I
for
just
30,
yeah,
yeah,
for 30
taxes or like the upkeep and um,
money in the tabernacle
mhm.
is what I had a note on. You want to talk about your note first?
It was just about the. I guess I had it wrote about being fair, and I know so now how we do tithes, and I don't really consider this to be a tithe because this was specifically for the upkeep of the tabernacle. But I guess someone can say, okay, this is my version of a tithe. Um, it was the same, you know what I'm saying? Whereas now it's like based off of what you want to make and how
Your
people,
gross.
yeah, you're gross, and then you have, a lot of places that'll be like, oh no, we have a fund for this, and you need to be giving more, and you need to be giving more, and like that pressure where God is like, no, just do what you were told to do, flat out amount, no more, no less, across the board, and let's just move on. And I thought that I wrote fair.
Okay.
But yeah.
I went and I looked up the amount. So where Morgan and I are at is the money for the tabernacle is in Exodus 30:11 through 16. And it says each man who counted must pay a ransom for himself to the Lord. Each person must give a small piece of silver um, as a sacred sacrifice, and it's going to be half a shekel. And I was like, well, how much is half a shekel? Right now, that's 15 cents. Um, I don't know if the conversion is how much a shekel. I think the conversion right now is how much a shekel was worth today, not necessarily how much a shekel was worth back then. Okay, so I can't equate it to 15 cents right now because that 15 cents, if you said 15 cents back in 1920, that 15 cents isn't the 15 cents we have now. But I can imagine that it was something that was, I guess you can say, doable. It was okay. I didn't take into consideration that it was for everybody, so everybody playing equal amount. So I thought that was good too, especially if it was something that the amount that God has already blessed everyone to be able to make. Then it's like, okay, um, it was doable. So I was like, oh, okay. So I thought that was different, just to look it up and see like how much is half a shekel was worth. And that was the last notes I have for the other. I have other highlights, just talking about the oil and the anointing of Aaron and his sons, like you said about like who is going to be able to do all of this, and how in Exodus 31, God filled these two people individuals with the Spirit of God and gave them the wisdom to be able to craft all this together. Um, and then Sabbath.
Yeah. So in 31, I had notes about Bezalel and his brother. Big O. Uh,
Liab.
so about the Sabbath, just in that reference to the Sabbath, I feel bad for people who have to work on the Sabbath. Um, and or people who have, like no days off because of, financial struggles or different situations, and they don't get that time to like commune with God or to say, okay, this day is just for God because I don't have the resources to take off. And so then it's like, but then I question it because, I devil's advocate myself. And I'm like, but if they just say, well, whatever the circumstances is, I'm just not going to go in or I'm not going to do whatever. I'm going to make that time for God. And then, you know, God will provide. Like by choosing to prioritize the relationship with God over the worldly standard of, oh no, you have to come into work at this time on this day. Does that help the situation? Came to the conclusion, no, it does not, because as we have learned throughout the Bible, just because God is with you does not mean that things don't happen
Something
to
not
you.
gonna happen. Yeah.
That does not mean that your boss will be like,
Sometimes it is the reason stuff is happening to
well,
you.
you are fired, fired.
Some people
Um,
going that hard.
so yeah, but I did feel bad about that. And then I wrote, shout out to Chick-fil-A. And so I had a
Ain't
question.
nothing by their side. Like they, because I was like, you usually wouldn't even be in a mall because there's a structure. Like we can't have just one mall, one store closed. How silly that look. But when they show them numbers, the mall be like, you can do what another store does in 2 weeks in your 1 week alone.
Mhm.
Surely we can be okay with you having Sunday off. So I think that's amazing. Like, there's nobody else does that. Nobody. Everybody's still trying to figure out how they're gonna be like tactful on Christmas. Like, shut her down. Like, what are you talking about? So
People will adjust.
yeah, they'll be okay. Why is that the only day that my family be like, can we get Chick-fil-A after church?
Yeah,
Ma'am,
you
you
can't
know
have
no such
it.
thing.
You crave it. That's what, like, man.
You need to get it on Saturday so that you can just heat that thing up.
And then I wrote a question, and I'll ask you: would you quit a job that didn't allow the Sabbath off?
Oh yeah. I mean, when I was looking, hold on, because I had a discussion with Nina last time we were on, and I forgot which one it is. Hold on. One, two, three, four. The fourth commandment, it says, remember to observe the Sabbath and keep it holy. My only question was not that I have the time off, because I've always had jobs where I didn't work on Sunday. It was just rather than not. Now it's Sabbath Saturday.
Yeah, that was.
But also not just not work. It was like,
Don't do anything.
yeah, you be here, like breathe. Like you're not supposed to cook like all that Sunday dinner. Ain't supposed to be doing that, grandma. So it's like all of that. But would I quit a job? I don't think at this age. As a teenager in college, I had 3 jobs. Surely I did work on Sunday. In ignorance and out of what I believed was necessity. But now, absolutely not. Like,
Let's say you were a doctor, and they was like, "We need you on call on Sunday." Nope.
if I were a doctor,
Mhm.
see, that's when you get your feelings involved, which the Bible versus your feelings. And you be like, Lord, this is the work you called me to do. I'm out here saving lives. Hold on. Am I a ear, nose, and throat doctor? Or
No,
am I a heart
you're not a
surgeon?
practicing doctor. You are emergency medicine hospital. Matter of fact, you a surgeon. You a neonatal urologist. You one of the top 2 people in the world who can perform on infant uterus. I said infant bladders, and it's an emergency. You need to come in.
According to my religion, that'd be a strong no. And I don't know if I would have to take that into the account that that was God's will, if anything outside of me being able to help happen that day. Uh, or what, but that's something that I think in that position that somebody definitely is in. Like I had my cousins are doctors. That's something that they would have to pray about. Like I don't want to take it lightly and just be like, oh well, God gave me this gift. I'm out here, helping him out with the healings. And that's not what he called you to do. Like I don't think he made it a commandment just to for kicks and giggles. Like you do need that time because doctors do be stressed out. And some people don't put their foot down. I had a coworker that was Jewish, well, is Jewish, but was my coworker. It's not like he quit Jewish in the middle of our term together. Um, and I don't remember the piece of his culture where, but I believe one he could not be out past the day. He had to pray at a certain time, couldn't eat after a certain time. Um, and the head boss respected that. Like that was just his turn. He was like, "Oh, I forgot his name. He was such a nice man." But he was like, "Oh, he's not coming in today, or he had to leave. He has to leave early on this day because of sundown or whatever the case may be." And he's not Muslim because I know during Ramadan that's a thing for Muslims, but he was Jewish, and there is something in their culture, either during a specific time or just in general, where either they can't eat or they can't be out at that time. So I was like, wow. So if somebody called you to come in, like it's weird because then the world will say time and a half, and you be like, well, dang, tempting, tempting. But what about you with that same question? Are you about to go save all the babies?
So my follow up to that question when I asked it was like how you said, is it Sunday or Saturday? And I was like, does it matter what day I count as my Sabbath as long as I designate a day to dedicate to the Lord and do nothing like according to his commandment? Does it have to be a Saturday or a Sunday? What if my day off is Wednesday? That is literally the only day, but that is the day that I decide is my time to commune with God.
I don't know. He definitely said the and not a. And I have learned not to mess with God.
Duh, but he didn't say the Saturday Sabbath or the Sunday Sabbath.
I mean, it's the seventh day. That's what Sabbath means. So the seventh day. And that's why it's Saturday or Sunday, depending on how that week is given. Like, is the week starting on the Monday or is the week starting on a Sunday?
Let's say, but my week, that's people's week. But my work week start on a Thursday, which
My
would
work
then
week. So we about to
my
cater.
week starts
We
on
about to
Thursday.
cater to your work week. So what happened when God elevates you and you get a raise and your work week changes? You just gonna be like, oh Lord, now it's Saturday.
Yeah. Now my week starts on a Monday. Now my week starts on Sunday.
I don't know. I feel like that is definitely a detail that has been missed for me. Like never ever in church have we never talked about the Sabbath. Never. I've been to plenty of churches. I've been in church for a very long time. I try to make it to every service. But I have never heard anything about what we supposed to be doing for this day, what we can't do, and how we supposed to do it now, like in these times. Like
So you should, if you have spare time, you should dive into Seventh Day Adventists, their religion. They are Christians, however, I mean it's in the
there's a
same
Saturday I used
seven.
to.
They do Saturdays, yes, and they are very specific on what can occur even on Friday evening into Saturday, how they do their communing with God. And they chose Saturday as I don't say they chose. Their religion believes that Saturday is the Sabbath. I believe a lot of it has to do with the calendar, and they say the Mayans
Not
just
just the calendar, some of it, because I went into it in the last live, has to do with the Roman Catholic Church. I believe the Roman Catholic Church, or those before, changed it for a different reason. Like changed it, like just straight was like the Sabbath on Sunday now, and everybody was like, okay. And so that's why they're really headstrong with Saturday, and then other people have merged into Sunday. And if that is the case, Saturday is the day pretty much the world is like fun day. Saturday is fun day. Saturday is the day that you get all the fun stuff done. It's your relaxed day. You out here going to Six Flags and you over here cooking out on the deck and all of that. That's a Saturday thing. And then Sunday is the day when a lot of people wind down, get them, but it's still work. You getting yourself ready for the week. You are cooking some big meal for your family. You hustling, bustling, getting to the church and everything. So culturally, we are lost with that for like it's a commandment. It's not a oh you look they mentioned it in the Old Testament like tithe. How everybody going back and forth about tithing. That's not a commandment. That's something that I believe you should do, and your church definitely needs your assistant with that. But the Sabbath is on the tablet, so it's worth pouring your heart out and figuring out what God says. I'm not gonna tell somebody that God wouldn't want you to do on Wednesday. If that's what you and the Lord talking about, and that's the understanding, I can't say that. But for him to go against the word that he has said to everybody seems like that wouldn't happen. But it's literally his world. So, um, as far as me and my house, it's Sunday. But what it looks like is not what I believe it should look like. It's definitely us still doing the laundry, relaxing, spending time with each other. You're still connecting with others on the internet. Like something in me feels like you're supposed to sit there, praise God, spend time with loved ones, all that TV and all of that that takes your attention away from your core goals and stuff. No, I'm not saying you and your family gotta sit in a circle, hold hands, and look at each other, but to sit there and like talk, the thing that you probably don't do throughout the whole week, sit there, talk. Don't spend 20 minutes, cooking a meal. Well, 20 minutes. Don't spend 5 hours cooking a meal. So, yeah, a lot to research there. But that's all the notes that I had. Let me make sure. I did highlight 18, which is the last scripture on here, 31:18. When the Lord finished speaking with Moses on Mount Sinai, he gave him 2 stone tablets inscribed with the terms of the covenant, written by the finger of God. So, um, these are the tablets that have the 10 Commandments on them, which are, the laws, the code. So, that is before we move into section 3, which is breaking the law, which already sets the tone. If you don't already know the story, it goes far left. It just does, and it's very sad. It's just, yeah. Oh, from that, it's not really related, but I do want to say, speak to a comment that you made before about this section. Every part of the Bible is not going to be like God's chosen family. That section was a section that made me really, really like get into the Bible. Like, oh, it's a story that I can follow. It's like stuff is happening to this group of people, and they're head to head. This is that person's son. This her daughter. Da 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 da. As you proceed in your reading, you're not going to have theatrical that many theatrical type moments. Some of it is straight information. Like when you get to this person begot this person, it's a whole lineage, and you're like, wow. And for this situation where it's a whole bunch of measurements, like in the ark, Noah's ark. So you're reading this and you might be like, oh my gosh, like, okay, we got it. It was immaculate. you could have We could have just said 'twas immaculate. It was 31. Like, but all of those details do help you really understand like a little piece of God's personality, a little piece of how royal he is, and how we are to approach him in that, or approach him and view him in that way. Because we don't have kings and queens over here. Like nobody walking around with a scepter and the gold and diamonds, and no, like you got the wedding ring, maybe an earring here and there. Matter of fact, any presidents have earrings? No, it may be an earring here and there, but there's no blinging, really nothing that is like ooh. So I'm not trying to say push through a section like this, but find the reason of why it's relevant. Our Bible actually gives you 4 reasons why it's relevant on 175. It says, but what can all these ancient complicated construction details show us today? And the first one is the high quality of the precious materials that made the tabernacle. It showed the greatness of God. Um, and the second one is the curtain surrounding the most holy place shows God's moral perfection, as a symbol of his separation from the common and unclean places. The third one is the portable nature of the tabernacle, like Morgan was saying, his desire to be around his people, traveling and things like that. And fourth is the furnishings of the tabernacle and the service that's performed there, is a picture of the atonement that will one day come through Jesus Christ, like I had said earlier. So you do get to, I love that it laid it out like that, because you can read a section like this and many others to come. I'm trying to tell y'all, it's gonna be some sections where you're gonna be like, what are Kelly and Morgan gonna say about this? Because it was nothing but the same word over and over. So push through is what I'm saying. Like, try to find what you're supposed to, like, really pray about that. Ask the Holy Spirit, like, what am I supposed to gather from this?
I just want to say, correction, 197. The book did hook me up with a little illustration of the tabernacle.
187.
197.
Oh, like all the pay. Oh, I do see it. That's not what I envision.
Nah.
Let me turn around for y'all. Let me turn around.
I was envisioning something a bit more luxurious.
Yeah. I don't think I think it'd be nice. I'd be interested to see maybe the Bible Project. They do like nice illustration and video of things. It is in like a animated type of feel, but it'd be nice if somebody did like somebody like I can see the History Channel like rebuilding something like that in a form of taking us on a walk because they do it for the Egyptians and and the pyramids and things like that, and they walk you through that. So I think that'd be nice. Might want to write an email.
That was a rough sketch. So they ain't put no time into that.
I had my thing lined out on what I was gonna do. Like, do you think I should go from 184 to 188? That's section 3. But I'm looking at it and it's like
That ain't. I think you can get past that.
that's what I was saying. Like I was like, because we were doing sections. So should I go into 194?
What's on 194?
That's the end of so section 3 and 4.
Uh-uh. Oh, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So that will be Exodus 32.
32 through 39.
Yeah. 32 to 39. Oh yeah, that's all of 39. Okay. But there she goes. Exodus 32, 39. All right, so that's what we're gonna put my clippy thing right there. Even though I got all of these Mama Boucle ribbons. And that's what I'm gonna call a wrap. All right. Thanks, people.